G'day team. I was going to talk through the steps that we would need to take in order to create a flip book from an animation that we create in After Effects. There's a few steps involved. Kind of written them out here for us to consider. Let me go through them. Firstly, we're going to need to create an animation in After Effects, and that's kind of up to you. Better fix these typos as I go. What that is up to you. You'll need to read the assignment instructions and come up with a concept and execute that concept. And then beyond that, we'll go through the steps to output that so we can turn it into printable artwork and make the book. So once we have an animation that we're happy with, we're going to need to output that as individual single frames from After Effects to PNG files or similar. PNG is kind of the easiest, I think. We need to collate and collect all those PNGs together because there'll be a few of them. At a minimum, there's going to be 50. And we're going to collate them into a data file. So we're going to list them in a spreadsheet. Because what we can do with that spreadsheet is what we call data merge. And that's a process of automating the creation of a document in InDesign. So we'll set up the InDesign document, create the page template. We'll do that data merging. The pages will be automatically generated, so hopefully that speeds up our process, and then we can export a PDF to send to print. And then beyond that will be the kind of analog stage of the production project where we actually make the book. So let me take you through these digital steps. I'm going to flick over to After Effects and I'll turn myself off here. Here's a project that I created some time ago, and it's an animation sequence, so probably pretty similar to the scope that you guys are looking at. I've made this at, it's a 10-second loop, so that's quite good for you, and this is an animated kind of self-portrait. I've made this in portrait format. Now I'm going to want to do a few things before I export this as PNG files. Just very quickly, I'll create a new composition. So let's just say this is your finished animation comp there. I'm going to create a new composition and it's going to be the same size, but I'm going to make it a portrait, a landscape version. So 1920 by 1080, and that's kind of just flipping my original around. I'll call this output. I'm going to keep the duration the same. I'm going to flip the height and width, and I'm going to drop the frame rate down considerably to 5 frames. So that's going to be at 5 frames a second, over 10 seconds, that's going to give me 50 frames, 50 individual PNG files. So I'm going to go OK, and then I'm going to pop my artwork into that comp and just line it up, and I'm going to rotate it minus 90 degrees. I'm going to go minus 90 like so, and that's perfect because our book's going to be more landscape. Okay, so we're set up, we're ready to export this as individual frames, and I'm going to go to composition and add to render queue. Okay, so we've done most of our exporting to the media encoder, which is cool, but we're going to do it from the built-in render queue because under render settings, I will just bring that over onto this screen. Make sure that our quality settings are set to best and full. And under my output mode, I'm going to change it from H.264 format to PNG sequence. RGB, millions of color, and click OK. So that's going to output our sequence of individual frames. We need to set an output directory, and I'm going to put it into, I've set something up onto the desktop. This is where our flipbook is being created. I'm going to add a folder of images and click create. All right, I'm not going to save into a subfolder. I'm just going to save it into that images folder, and I'm going to, I could have a name to the file, but I'm going to leave it with bracket and these 3 hashes, and that's going to sequentially name each of those PNG files just with a number starting at 000 and then going 001 up to 049, I think. And I'm going to click save. And then I'm simply going to hit the render queue, and it's going to extract all those individual frames at only 5 frames a second. But I think that's really all we need in a flip book. Once we're flipping those pages fast, it'll give us that animated impression. Okay, so we've exported the frames, and I might just go to the desktop and we can have a look at those. So there's our images, and we've created 50 individual frames. May as well open up one just to have a look at it. And there we go, that's one individual frame. Now in this folder, I want to make a spreadsheet or add a spreadsheet or a data file. I'm going to do that with just text edit. So if you go to, and you're on a Mac, go to text edit and open up text edit. All right. We'll make a file in text edit. And before we go too much further, this is specifically to text edit. We want to go to the settings and make sure when under new documents that we're making plain text, not rich text. So make sure that plain text option is selected. Otherwise we get all this formatting, and we want a plain text document as our data file. All right, so back in this folder here, I'm going to select each of these files and I'm going to copy those, and then I'm going to go back to text edit, bring up text edit, and I'm going to create a new document, and this is just a blank text document. At the top of that, I'm going to write a label, which is @images. Then underneath that, I'm going to paste all of those images in there. And really, this is just one column of data, and it's image files, and this is indicating that these are images at the top there. Then I'm going to file, I'm going to save that, and I'll save it into that same folder that we're working in, and I'll call it data. Go save. So we've got our images and we've got a data file. Let's go over to InDesign. And in InDesign, I'm going to create a new file for our book. And so we'll basically make a single page template, and we'll use that data file to populate all of the 50 pages of our InDesign document. So I'm going to work in millimeters. I've worked out a pretty decent size, which is 150 wide by 67.5 across. Now, you can make different size books if you want, but this is the one that I've been prototyping and works reasonably well. So we'll create a single page. It's not going to be facing pages, and we could probably turn off all of the margins. I only want one column, and we'll go create. All right, so we've got a blank document here. We could save this as a template if we're going to do this a few times. What I'm going to do is set up a single image box for my template, and I'm going to change it from, I'm going to make something that is just 16:9 in aspect ratio. So that looks like a very little box. But what I'm going to do is move that little box over into the corner there so it's snapped into the edges, and then hold shift down and drag out that 16:9 aspect ratio box right to the edge there so it snaps on the edge. So that is 120 across by 675, and that's the same aspect ratio as the PNGs that we output. Might make a little guide here. So this is where our images is, and this is essentially like the margin in the spine. Glue the pages together here. All right, so there's our template. Now we're going to data merge. So to data merge, we're going to locate our data file and use that to populate all of our pages. So we need to bring up a particular dialog box or tool, and it's called, under utilities, it's called data merge. All right, now gives us instructions here, but what we've got to do to start with is select a data source, and that was our text file. Oops, I have made a mistake there. Save that data file as a PDF, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to go back and save again. Oops, duplicate, and we'll call it data. All right, but we're going to save that now. And we're going to make sure that that's a text file. TXT. We'll save it in there. Oh, it is in there as a text file. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot. I'm looking in the wrong spot. Of course I am. Images here. There's our data file. Make sure that you're looking in the correct folder. Been doing this a few times. And then I'm going to click open, and it's indicated that there is an element there called images. That's the header of that column of data. Now what I can do is assign this sort of tag to this image box here, right? And it gives us this little tag here. So that's saying create a whole lot of pages, each page for each cell in that data file, and put each of those images that are in that folder in this particular spot. So that's looking good to me. Now this is a very simple data merge. You might use data merge, more complicated data merges for individualizing pages in a book or creating a series of labels. It's a really useful tool and something that I think you get your head around. Very useful for us to create these book pages very quickly. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview that. All right, and then that allows me to kind of flick through all of these pages like so. And you can see now that it's creating those individual pages that are in sequence, which is good. Now let's go to the Create Merged Document button. I'm going to click on that, and I think this is all very good. Under Options, in Image Placement, Fitting, we can fit images proportionally, and that's really good because it's going to stretch them to fit that box perfectly. I'm going to click OK, and fingers crossed. Overset, always been getting this error, but it doesn't really matter. We've got no text in our document anyway. If we go shut down the data merge panel and go to pages, we'll see now we've got a 50-page document with all of those pages intact. And I'm going to finish this off by exporting a PDF into our flipbook, into our images folder here in our flipbook demo. Might do it outside there, and I'm going to call this flipbook 1. And it's going to be a print ready file. And I'm going to include marks and bleed so that when we trim this, we've got something to work to. Now I haven't got any bleed, and bleed's not something that we're going to incorporate. So just leave that at 0. I'm going to click export, and then I think should be able to go over to our folder here in images. Oh, there it is. And there's our PDF. And this is ready for us to print all of our multiple pages of our animation for construction of our flipbook. All right, looking forward to seeing your flipbooks in the flesh.